Coming in number 10, we have he kidnaps naughty children. So where do all the elves come from? That is never explained in the Santa Claus lore, and it seems that it's a pretty huge gap in the knowledge of what goes on behind the scenes with the big man in the North Pole. And elves are a key part of his operation. Without the thousands, maybe millions of elves, how would he be able to do all the things that he does? Well, he wouldn't. And to ensure that he always has a fresh supply of workers, Santa Claus is kidnapping bad kids from all over the world and taking them back to the North Pole and forcing them to work for him. Santa heads out to drop off all his presents, but he's doing double duty. He's not just giving people what they wished for, he's also taking back a ton of fresh workers to come for the new Christmas season. Why do you think his sack of toys always looks like it has toys in it? Even when he's gone to most of the world, it still looks full. That's because every present gets replaced with a naughty kid. He hauls them all back in his massive sack and then dumps them in the toy shop and puts them right to work.
Now on to number 9, his elves are slaves. Everyone knows Santa has little helpers who wrap presents all year round for the big man in the red coat and white beard to hand out. There have been countless movies, TV shows, even songs about Santa's elves, and they always appear to be so cheerful and happy. But maybe it's all an act. And tying things in with Chase's previous point, how Santa takes naughty kids and makes them work for the next Christmas season, well, it seems quite evident that these elves, or kids, are working against their will. It's possible Santa has an army of both elves that he oversees, as well as the naughty youngsters, who inevitably will be taken to the most northern point of the world. Santa is known as the King of the North Pole, and for these elves to just be working all day long, wrapping gifts while cheerfully singing and dancing, all while Santa gets to kick back and relax, prepping for the one night that he has to travel the world, handing out presents. I mean, come on. He's obviously handing off the work he doesn't want to do to his elf slaves and calling it a career.
Coming in number 8, we have he's stealing from people. This guy is coming into your house and no one hears him. He's one of the stealthiest people on the planet. When he comes into your home, you're just trusting that he's not going to do anything shady. Well, what if he's doing something that isn't up to par? I mean, you have to leave out milk and cookies for the big man, and what happens if you don't? Does he go off the handle and put you on the naughty list because you didn't bribe him with some sugar? And what happens if he has some technical problems when he's going from house to house? His sleigh breaks down, his toy sack rips open, or any of the other millions of problems that could happen when you're delivering toys to every kid in the world. Well, he's not just going to stop the job, he's going to repair his sleigh, and he might need to take some stuff from you. And guess what? He's not gonna ask. He's not gonna wake you up in the middle of the night and ask you for a socket wrench, because A, it would reveal that he's real, and B, there's a good chance that you would just attack him in that moment.
Now next at lucky number 7, he inhumanely breeds reindeer. Everyone knows the wonderful Christmas song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He had a shiny nose and took the night with Dasher and Prancer and Vixen and all the others. But as we know, reindeer aren't immortal. They are, however, incredibly rare to find. So then how did Santa manage to snag 9 of them? Well, I think there's only one real logical answer here, folks. He breeds them for work purposes. And given that everything Santa does is under the radar, it's not like anyone will know how he treats the reindeer. And when it comes to getting things done efficiently, unfortunately, that means things won't always be done in the most humane way. What I'm getting at is Santa is breeding these reindeer inhumanely, and they likely live in very poor conditions. Aside from Santa, no one would ever really know where they live and how they're treated. Given that Santa uses them for literally one night out of the year to travel, I doubt he treats them any better than he treats his slave elves. Odds are Santa asks for cookies and milk because that's the one day out of the year he allows the reindeer to eat. After all, they're gonna need some energy if they're gonna do all that flying around the world.
Coming in number 6, we have there isn't enough Christmas cheer this year. We all know that Santa needs Christmas cheer to be able to travel around the world. That's like his form of clean energy or something. Well, how do you build Christmas cheer? Well, you need a massive corporation to set up decorations in the center of a major city, and then you guys have to go out and buy things. Just kidding, but you do need people to get together and share some love, usually in the form of caroling or making a bunch of stuff or hanging out with your family or being excited for Christmas. But this year, all of that stuff is basically illegal, depending on where you are in the world. New Zealand is going to be bumping with Christmas cheer because they've kicked COVID right out of the country. But will New Zealand alone be able to create enough Christmas cheer to have Santa go all over the world and give out all his presents? I don't think so, man. There's only 4 million people in that country. That means Santa has to take the year off because we can't get together to spread the love for Christmas. Like, think about if you live far away from your parents. You would normally fly home, but this year you might not be able to get on a flight because flights flights might be shut down, or you're worried about getting your parents sick, which might be a blessing for some people who don't want to see their families, but for everyone else, we need that cheer so Santa can travel around the world.
Halfway through list number 5, we got He's Not Coming this year. 2020 has been a year like no other, so to think that this may be the first year Santa doesn't travel the world to deliver presents isn't such a far-fetched idea. We're still trying to find a way to deal with our current pandemic, and although Santa is technically immune, more on that later, those whose homes he'll be visiting certainly aren't. Now that's not to say that the big man himself would necessarily be the one to transmit the bacteria from house to house, but as we know, it can certainly live on clothing for quite some time. And if Santa is going from house to house all over the world wearing the same red coat and white gloves, well, it's quite possible he spreads the bacteria of either COVID or possibly other illnesses without realizing it. Now, assuming he doesn't want to do that and isn't selfish because, again, he's technically immune, so he has nothing to worry about, it's still possible Santa opts out of delivering presents this year. For a lot of us, the greatest gift we could ask for this Christmas or New Year is a clean bill of health. And one way Santa can ensure he's not responsible for spreading any more illness is if he takes one Christmas off, given the unprecedented circumstances. As much as it may pain him to sit back and relax for one extra day, it may be for the greater good of humanity. So don't be surprised if your tree is looking pretty bare this Christmas.
Coming in number 4, we have Santa and Krampus are the same. We all know that there are two sides to the Santa tale. We got Santa Claus, who goes from house to house and gives you all the goods you've been waiting for. Unless you're naughty, then he just gives you some coal. Sucks to suck. But there's also Krampus, who finds out who the naughty kids are, the ones who got coal, and he eats them alive. Wow, dude, you need to chill out a little bit. But Krampus and Santa are two different people, right? Wrong! Krampus and Santa are one and the same. Some people have the theory that it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, aka the Hulk and Bruce Banner. So if Santa's traveling around from home to home and he has an encounter with something that's so over the top horrible, something that is so naughty he can't forgive it, then he will transform into Krampus, he will crash into your room and eat you alive. The blood of a child will return him back to his cheery self, and then he's off to deliver presents once again. How do you think Krampus is able to get into your home so easily?
Number 3, his blood cures COVID. People will try to harvest his blood. When Dr. Anthony Fauci revealed that Santa Claus was exempt from catching COVID because of his innate immunity, people started getting some crazy ideas. While speaking with USA Today, Fauci noted that Santa would still be spreading holiday cheer on Christmas, but he won't be spreading infections to anyone. And although that is all good and well, unfortunately the news led to some folks on the internet to get some rather, well, gruesome ideas. Given how long this pandemic has gone on and how many lives it's affected, to no surprise, people on the internet, mainly Twitter, started suggesting we harvest Santa's blood as that could be the cure for COVID we've all been looking for. Yeah, things got dark real quick on this one. So don't be surprised if people start setting traps around their homes, maybe Kevin McAllister style, in hopes of trapping Santa to drain him of that good.
Next on the list we have he is in the Illuminati. You can get into any house, you have access to an army of elves, you have wealth beyond anyone's understanding, and you possess magical powers that are potentially more powerful than nuclear weapons. Guess what? You're in the Illuminati. But this has been suggested for a long time, even outside of the magical myth of him. The image of Santa and the tool of Santa has been used to corrupt people for decades. I mean, did you guys know that Santa wasn't even red until Coke made him red? That's right, Coca-Cola transformed the image of one of the biggest marketing tools in the world so it would fit their brand better. They try and make him seem more wholesome, but really he's just something that a massive corporation uses to try and get kids indoctrinated with the idea of consumerism. Before kids are even smart enough to tie their own shoes, they're sitting on the lap of a corporate ad giving him a sales pitch of what they want their parents to buy them that year. Really, it's an ingenious plan by the Illuminati. Also, if you guys are hiring, I'd be down to join. Let me into the Illuminati, please.
And in at number 1, Santa profits off Christmas. Nothing in life is free, and although it seems Santa pretty much rules the North Pole, the guy still has to make his money somehow. If you haven't noticed yet, there's a reason why Coca-Cola has all these Christmas commercials featuring Santa Claus, whereas Pepsi doesn't. And that's because Coke owns the rights to Santa. It seems Mr. Claus is the biggest sellout of them all, as he's not only sold his image to a soft drink company, but he also allows people to profit off of his image by selling costumes resembling himself. Every year at Christmas parties, you see a guy dressed up pretending to be Santa Claus, wearing the beard, hat, and red coat. Obviously, they're not the real deal, but Santa has still found a way to make his profits. Even if he is overseeing all these elves and reindeer and holding them against their will, he still needs to house them, feed them occasionally, and keep them alive. And assuming there's millions, well, that ain't cheap.
Coming in at number 10, we have Santa seen from an airplane. There he is, ladies and gents, just flying through the sky doing his biz. I guess on the ground it's more difficult to spot the man in red. However, if you're ever flying on Christmas Eve and looking out of the plane window, you might just see him. Check out this footage. Just an ordinary sky until, ho ho, there's Santa. I wonder what Santa does about airplanes, like, I guess maybe he has some kind of GPS? Santa is in the clouds at number 9. Maybe that's how he gets around undetected. He turns into clouds. It's magic. If Santa makes sense, so does Santa cloud magic, I guess. This picture was posted on the Daily Mail website and taken by Julie Wells of Devon, England. She said, "I couldn't believe it when I saw it." Believe it, Julie. A spate of Santa spottings in Melbourne, USA at number 8. On December the 25th, 2008, the North American Aerospace Defense Command were monitoring an unidentified flying object over the skies in Florida. One witness took a picture and it looks a lot like Santa in his sleigh, all lit up to guide the way. Keeping it spacey at number 7, we have International Space Santa. On the evening of the 24th of December 2014, excited tongues were set wagging as Santa was spotted in the skies over London, England. Festive revelers looked up to the clear, cold December sky and they spotted a long white streak. Stargazers turned sleigh gazers as they looked west at 35 degrees from the horizon and saw something very special. Okay, so it wasn't Santa, but it was the International Space Station passing over England, which is pretty awesome. The Met Office told people in advance, so some residents of the southeast of England were able to gain a good look at the station passing by. Others were convinced it was a Christmas cover-up and it was really the man in red. At number 6, it seems Santa was caught on security camera on Christmas morning of 2014. We can see a parking lot, looking all quiet and still and parking-y there, and then, oh, hello there, old Saint Nick. He turns up in a flash of light and then quickly he's done with his work. Maybe this is how he delivers so many houses in one fell swoop. He's just super fast. Almost faster than the eye can see. Okay, so as we are mid-list, I thought we could take a quick break from all the Santa action and instead bring you a serious case of reindeer caught misbehaving on camera. That's all coming in at number 5. Naughty Rudolph, what a scally. While Santa's sleigh was left unattended in Nova Scotia, Canada, security cameras caught one peed off reindeer venting his frustration at Santa's sleigh. He totally destroys it with his antlers and he scares all his reindeer mates. What a naughty little menace. I think he's cute still though. I guess he must have had a very good reason to, just not enough sleep. Santa gets arrested at number 4. In November 2013, a man dressed as Santa was arrested. He was taken in by police in Ontario, California. The man was actually Carl Hilgert. He was a Walmart worker on a protest. He and his friends earned less than $25,000 a year and he was out there just to fight for his rights. And I'm actually kind of totally with Carl on this one. I hope that this placed him on Santa's nice list despite the arrest. He even gave a candy cane to the arresting officer. It isn't easy to stand up for your rights and the rights of others, especially in the face of a huge profiteering chain like Walmart. On this occasion, they were opening their doors for Black Friday, making a huge profit, and this guy was just like, hey, I don't earn enough. It isn't easy, but standing up for what you believe in is a good thing to do. Santa has been spotted on police dashcam at number 3. In Noble County, Indiana, a driver of a police car caught Santa and his reindeer flying overhead on their dashcam. Obviously, it was immediately shared on social media. I mean, if I just snapped Santa in his sleigh, I would be straight on Twitter, then on Facebook, and then on Instagram. The LaGrange County Sheriff's Department shared the image on Facebook with the caption, "Photo taken from the dashcam of a Noble County police car in the southern part of Noble County, heading northbound a short time ago. Merry Christmas to all and to all a good night." The image was shared over 8,500 times. Santa is spending Christmas in New York at number 2. This video shows Santa flying through the skies of New York City. You can clearly see him and his reindeer racing across the blue sky. The video titled "Santa Claus Caught on Camera Flying Over New York City on Christmas Eve Afternoon" has been watched over 2.5 million times, and to me, it looks pretty legit. Finally, at number 1, why have one Santa spotted on camera when you can have 18,000 of them? thousands of people gathered to get in the festive spirit in India, where a world record was set for the most Santas in one place. 18,112 people got together at an event organised by Thyssa Citizenry and Thyssa Archdiocese. This all went down in Kerala in 2014. Sure, they may not have been the Santa, but they're definitely helpers, as the gathering took place to raise money for the poor, and that definitely is the spirit of Christmas right there.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the sock puppet. This one comes from Ireland, where many years ago a man owned all the land around a village and rented it out to the poor farmers there for a profit. He was very kind to his own family, but brutal to the other villagers. He made a fortune from this cruelty. The villagers hatched a plan to overthrow him one day. One Christmas night he threw a lavish party for his friends while the villagers were starving in the cold. A villager arrived bearing a gift. He said it was a present for the rich man's daughter. The girl opened it to find a sock puppet that the villager had knitted. He asked for some food in return. The rich man gave him a single potato. The girl loved the sock puppet though. She named it Charlie. She took it to bed that night. When her father went to check on her, she was fast asleep. But he noticed that Charlie was still on her hand, and its plastic eyes were staring right at him. The villagers were about to get their bloody revenge on the rich man thanks to a murderous sock puppet called Charlie. Moving on to number 9 now, we have Christmas tree decorations. This is a story from Scary for Kids about a girl called Juliet who was decorating a Christmas tree. Her mum was working late, and so when she finished with the tree, she sat down to watch some TV. It was then that she heard a scratching noise at the door. She looked through the peephole to see a man outside. He was a large, bearded guy in a red suit with fluffy white trim. He banged on the door loudly. Juliet asked, "Who's there?" The man said he was Santa Claus and that he wanted to come in because he was cold and tired and hungry. Juliet didn't believe him. She told him that her mother wasn't home and she wanted him to leave. His face began to go red and twist with anger. He knocked even harder and growled,
"It's Santa Claus, Juliet. Have you laid out some milk and cookies for me, Juliet? You know how much Santa loves his milk and cookies."
Honestly, it's a creepy story from start to finish, and it only gets worse for Juliet from there. All I'll say is make sure you don't read it right after you've eaten. Moving on to number 8 now, we have The Figure. This one comes from Arthur H, who shared his story on cagemom.com. He said, "My mother, to whom I was very close, passed away in 1964 when I was 17 years old. I left home that year and moved to Ontario from Nova Scotia. In 1969 I met a girl who I will call Karen, and we got married in March of 1970. In December of 1971 we were expecting our first child. We were living in a small 1.5 bedroom bungalow. There was a fireplace in the living room. My wife and I loved the fireplace, and we had it lit every night. It was Christmas Eve 1971, and we had just finished putting the gifts under the tree, and a nice fire gave off a beautiful glow. On the tree, one string of lights, which was supposed to flash, had stopped several days before. It was 5 minutes to midnight when the fireplace suddenly just about went out, and a string of lights started to flash, and the other lights stopped flashing. My wife and I were sitting on the floor, and it had become very chilly in the room. I looked over to my lazy boy chair, and a figure was sitting there. My mother, with a big beautiful smile on her face. My wife, who had never met my mother, said she could see the same thing. This ghost never spoke, but just kept looking at me and my wife and smiling. At 12 midnight, the fire in the fireplace started up again, and the lights on the tree stopped flashing, and the others started flashing again. I looked over in the chair, and the ghost was gone. No matter what I did to those Christmas lights, they never flashed again. Next up at number 7 now, we have The Boy Who Killed Santa Claus. This one was written by Mark Allen Gunnels. It's about a 7-year-old boy called Henry Childers. He asked his mum to stay up past 10 on Christmas Eve one year, but she warned him that if he didn't go to sleep, Santa wouldn't come that night. He had hoped that Santa would get things right this year. Last year, he asked for an Xbox, but he got a PlayStation instead. His mum told him not to worry, Santa was probably all out of Xboxes, but Henry had not forgotten. Henry had a rage inside of him. He had been plotting all year. He knew he was too little to fight Santa, but he also knew that Santa liked to have milk and cookies. He also knew that food and drink can always be poisoned. Finish the story to find out what happened to the boy who killed Santa Claus. It's a good one. Moving on to number 6 now, we have Bloody Axe. This story actually comes from an old horror comic, and the pictures you're seeing now are from just that. It's written from the perspective of an 8-year-old boy. He would lie very still under the old moth-eaten quilt his mother had made for him. He would be wide awake and listen out for sounds. On one Christmas Eve, he heard the front door closing and the clomp, clomp, clomp of his father's mud-caked boots, and then there was the sound of dripping on the stairs. Drip, drip, drip. Then his father would pass by his doorway and the light would cast his shadow on the bedroom wall and the shadow of the bloody axe he always carried in his hands. At breakfast the next morning, he slowly asked his mother where his father had been last night. She looked at him with sad eyes but never said a word. By the end of this story though, we learn that there is a connection with the rumours of the nearby axe murderer and his father's return every night. Let's just say it doesn't have a pretty ending. Moving on to number 5 now, we have The Carol Singers. This is a story based on The Vanishing House by Bernard Capes. The storyteller said that when they were a boy, their grandfather and father were alcoholics who never worked. They could play instruments though. On one Christmas Eve, they took him Christmas caroling with them, door to door. It was a dark night, snow was falling and the wind cut through them like a knife. They came to a big mansion decorated with Christmas lights. The grandfather knocked on the front door and they began to play some old Christmas carols. When the door finally swung open, in the dim light they could see a young woman stood holding a tray of glasses in her hands. She picked up a glass and handed it to the grandfather, who excitedly took it. The boy looked up to a window above and saw a hideous face peering out of the shadows. He looked back at the woman in the doorway and her face had twisted hideously too. They would live to regret the day they ever came to that mansion and the grandfather taking that glass. Alright everyone, moving on to number 4 now, we have The Clown Puppet. There was once 3 sisters, aged 15, 12 and 7. They told their parents what they wanted for their Christmas gift of choice. The oldest asked for a laptop, the middle for an iPad and the youngest for a small doll. On Christmas Day, the oldest and middle daughters got what they asked for. They were over the moon. The youngest daughter didn't receive a doll though. Instead, she got a clown puppet. She thought it was cute and so she kept it. 2 days later, the youngest daughter disappeared. The next Christmas, the oldest daughter asked for an iPad and the middle child asked for a clown puppet. Sure enough, 2 days later, she disappeared. The next Christmas, the last remaining daughter asked for a clown puppet in memory of her sisters. She disappeared as well. The heartbroken parents never recovered. They eventually became so poor they had to sell everything for money. One day they went into the attic to look for items to sell. That's when they saw, in the darkness at the very back, the clown puppet was sitting on a throne made from lollipop sticks. Arranged all around it were the severed heads and limbs of the 3 missing girls. Next up at number 3 now, we have the Griefer. He told them the story of the grifter, the most awful thing in the world. He lives in a cave at the North Pole. The coldest, wettest place on earth is where the grifter makes his home. He sleeps in the wreck of a ship. He doesn't mind the cold and he doesn't mind the wet, but the thing he hates most of all is to hear someone say his name. He has very good ears and they get bigger every time his name is spoken anywhere on earth. Sometimes his ears get so big he can use them to fly. At this point, Steffa said she didn't like the story. It was scaring her. It's too late now, the mother said. We've already mentioned his name. The grifter is probably on his way to our house this very minute. Those words will come to haunt them before this story ends. Moving on to number 2 now guys, we have Belsnickel. If you're watching this from a Germanic speaking country, you may be familiar already with this story. In that part of the world, the Belsnickel is a fur-clad Christmas gift bringer. He has a long tongue and is typically very ragged and disheveled. His clothes are dirty and ripped, and he's known for beating misbehaved children with a stick. He's a mythical creature that serves as an almost anti-Santa-like creature. If it's Santa's job to deliver joy and presents, it's the Belsnickel's job to make sure they deserve it. And finally, number 1 now, we have purple fingernails. This one comes from the Scary for Kids website, and I'll read it exactly as I found it. There was once a little girl who had a large collection of dolls. One Christmas, she saw a doll in the window of a department store that she absolutely had to have. It had long, flowing blonde hair and a lovely blue dress. But the thing that impressed her the most about the doll was that it had lovely, bold, purple fingernails. When Christmas morning came, she was delighted to find the doll with the purple fingernails lined lying under the Christmas tree. She played with it all day, and when she went to sleep, she put it on the table at her bedside. That night, the little girl was awakened by strange noises. It was still dark outside. She looked over for her doll, but it was nowhere to be found. The girl, puzzled, got out of bed and walked into the hallway. The door to her parents' room was ajar, and she pushed it open softly and looked in. Her parents appeared to be sleeping soundly, and so she went back to bed. In the morning, she saw the doll with the purple fingernails was sitting on the table by her bed, exactly where she had left it. She assumed that she must have just been having a bad dream, but when she went into her parents' room that morning, she found them both lying dead in a pool of blood. There were 2 purple doll fingernails stabbed into their hearts.